Okay, now we are more on topic. I don't know why that looks a little shadowy, but this is Jesus or Barabbas, and this is the picture from the Passion of the Christ film, and it's so important to have this because I think in many ways that the Passion of the Christ really emphasized his character, his personality. In a lot of ways, Barabbas, he was a very strong zealot. And so, if you don't know what a zealot is, he was just pretty much an extreme Jew, which zealots would go out and attack, cause issues and stuff like that. Um, Words were combining there. But when you look at it, it's also very important to acknowledge the fact that Peter himself was also a zealot. So that explains him cutting off the dude's ear. So let's get into this. At the festival, Peter, Pilate used to release at the festival, Pilate used to release for the people a prisoner whom they requested. There was one named Barabbas who was in prison with rebels who had committed murder during the rebellion. The crowd came up and began to ask Pilate to do for them as was his custom. Pilate answered them, "Do you want me to release the king of the Jews for you?" For he knew it was because of their of envy that the chief priests had handed him over. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd so that he would release Barabbas to them instead. Pilate asked them again, "Then you want do then what do you want me to do with the one you called King of the Jews?" They shouted, "Crucify him." Pilate said to them, "Why? What has he done wrong?" They shouted all the more, "Crucify him." Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them, and after having Jesus flogged, he handed him over to be crucified. Now, this has got to be one of the hardest parts because we know that Pilate was a cruel man. We knew that he was not the easiest to get along with, but now he's between a rock and a hard place, and he is wanting to do this. Now there are some that believe, as in Passion of Christ or in other films, or other historians have noticed or have believed that his wife was a oracle type person. I can't remember if she was an exact oracle or not, but she was related or she had these kind of like magical things about her. And she kept having dreams, which led to his hesitation with Jesus, which is, I think, important to have that knowledge ahead of time. Um, what I think is interesting, most importantly, actually, is the fact that he does not even ask about Barabbas. He brings him out so that I guess in years past, as it said, he releases a prisoner. But in this specific aspect, he's like, "Hey, I have this one prisoner who is literally a murderer um who was in prison with rebels who had committed murder during the rebellion. And if it was a rebellion, he probably did a lot worse too, probably, as we call it today, vandalism or destroyed property or yeah, did other things that is bad. And they still shouted to crucify Jesus. Now, there's a video that I'll probably post or share uh, with social media so you could have oh, I'm so sorry. To have uh an idea of how I picture this because it is a jam sermon by uh, Judith, a preacher guy who states that we are Barabbas. We are the ones that deserve death. We are the ones that deserve this, and we who are believers, we're like, no, no, you free me. I deserve this. And one of the things that he says, which he's kind of showing how he believed that Christ would respond to us in this situation, because that was us as Barabbas. Go live your life, be faithful, be strong in your faith, but live your life. Because he had to be crucified, he had to have these things happen to him. Now, it's important to acknowledge the fact of the confusion that people have, because many people believe what is coming, because we won't get to it until probably the end of the week, or maybe even next week. I haven't looked at it, but the confusion that people have with um Christ's crucifixion, his suffering, they state specifically that God is a cruel God because of the fact that he allowed Jesus to go through this. But let me ask you this one very simple question with that. When it comes to the lifeblood, because as we know, in the Old Testament and even somewhat of the New Testament, there is the aspects of sacrifice, cutting the the lamb to let the blood flow, the sin offering. It takes a life. Now, when we look at how the fall began, through the fall we have the death. Death is brought into the world because of the fall. We have the temptation of control. We have the temptation of prideful desires, and that through that, the devil used that. And when you think about it, when you really, really look at it, it is stating that we are suffering. We die because of sin, and Christ had to die to defeat the thing that was brought in through sin. Now he didn't. Now the devil never created anything that day. The fall, when he had Adam and Eve, when he convinced them to eat of the fruit, and he used his cunning words to do so. What I think is important is the fact that Christ died on the cross, the lifeblood, and through that, when you look at the story of Noah with the lifeblood, do not murder, because do not eat the animal's blood, because of the life that is within it. And I think that's important, because there's always something to do with blood, with life, and the death that was brought into this world because the corruption of what was good through sin. All of that just started rolling in my head. So I think it's important to look at the crucifixion and understand the importance of the crucifixion, which may sound weird, but it's called Black Friday. Not We just had Black Friday. It's called uh, uh, Good Friday for a reason, which, in a lot of ways, we should call this the Friday after Easter, Black Friday, or the Friday of Easter, Black Friday, because it is a dark time for those who believed. But we celebrate it now because of the fact that we know he was resurrected. We know he was brought back to life through the blood, through the power of God. Now, we do not know where he went. We do not know where he ended up being, but that's nor here nor there. We do know that the criminal at the end of the week, I believe it's Friday actually, when I was looking at it, he will be. He said to the prisoner to the right, I believe, that he'll be with him in paradise. So there's that. But with all that being said, yes, God did create the life, the blood offering, the blood sacrifice. So through that, yes, Christ had to die on the cross, but it was because of life was hurt, was corrupted in some senses through death, through the fall. So all this is flowing in my head. So before I keep going on, crazy rabbit trails or maybe anything else like that, it's important to acknowledge two important things. First thing, as I've mentioned from the last video to this video, Pilate was a cruel man, but he was not unreasonable. He saw that he was an innocent man. He saw that they were just, as it states here, for he knew it was because of the envy that the chief priest had over him, that he had handed him over. And then going further, they shouted to um, to crucify him. Then I just actually noticed something where it says in 9, do you want me to release the king of the Jews? Um, and then they responded, they did not respond. It does not say that they had a response there. And then he says, then what do you want me to do with the one you call the king of the Jews? Crucify him. Again, they said. So they obviously have already chanted this. Why? What has he done wrong? Crucify him. And I'm trying to find where I read it just a moment ago. Did I miss? Uh, the crowd came up to begin and to ask. Um, uh, I just missed it. I overlooked that part. But when he asked the last question, the first question, and it mentioned the envy that the high priest had, but the chief priest stirred up the crowd so that he would release Barabbas to them instead. And so we are Barabbas. Jesus loves Barabbas, and he loves us. And you may be a sinner, you may have turned your back away from the Bible or just from your faith altogether, but in the end, uh, God still love, and He is still waiting for us to all of us, no matter where we are, no matter who we think we are, we need to always turn back to God, in all of our circumstances and all that we do. So I will see everyone tomorrow. Don't forget, things will be changing with Mere Christianity tomorrow and Genesis on Sunday. So